Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of First Canada Live. I'm your host, Karthik Vanshika, and we are excited for another great show here today. We're going to bring the community together, talk about a lot of good stuff. That's what we do every week on First Canada Live. So it is going to be a blast. But before we get started, as Canadians, it is important to recognize the land of which we are a part. As we gather for this meeting, physically dispersed and virtually constructed, let us take a moment to reflect upon the meaning of place, and in doing so, recognize the various traditional lands on which we celebrate today. We acknowledge the elders and youth, past, present, and emerging, of all land on which we work and live. We honor the ancestral spirits with gratitude and respect. We acknowledge this land out of respect for the Indigenous nations who have cared for Turtle Island, also called North America. The Indigenous people have been gifted the role of caretakers of this land before the arrival of settler peoples until today. But most importantly, we remember the history of these lands and people that have been tainted by poor treatment and a lack of friendship with the First Nations who called Canada home before it was given this name. This history is something that everyone is affected by. We are all treaty people in Canada. We all have a shared history to reflect upon, and each of us is affected by this history in different ways. Our past defines our present, but if we move forward as friends and allies, it does not define our future. All right, folks, to get things started, I'd like to welcome our co-host for today's show. She's a student on FRC Team 2056 OP Robotics and a member of the First Canada Youth Council. Say hello to Vanshika. Hello, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you, Karthik?
I am great, but the question is, you're back in school right now after a little bit of a gap. So how's that been? How's it been being back in person classes?
It's been super weird because like everything's like so much different, but I like being back in person. I really miss just being in school and doing robotics, of course.
And how's robotics season going? We're going to talk a lot about that later on in the show. We
Mhm.
got a little bit of segment there, but right now, is your team able to meet right now? Or are you still working virtually?
Right now we're just working like virtually. Of course, we can't meet in person, but hopefully we are, gonna meet in person soon and start building our robot and everything.
That's exciting, and it's been really
Mhm.
cool to see how so many of our teams have found a way to make this build season work virtually to start. And obviously, at some point, you're going to need to get in there, and hopefully, we'll be able to do that safely and securely. But has there been any like tips and tricks about remote work that you have for us?
I think the biggest tip would be communication and just making sure that everybody's on the same page. Because especially being like virtual, it is so hard to connect with people because everybody just has like such a busy life and everything's just, crazy right now. But communication is key to make sure that everything's, working well.
Yeah, and I think in general, like effective communication is the key to any
Mhm.
FRC team because there's just so much that goes into it, and you're taking really complicated ideas and you're trying to distill them out. And I'm sure it's much more of a because like sometimes in person it's like, okay, I'm trying to explain my idea to you, but let me just show you and just pull some things
Mhm.
together or grab something for the shop, or I'm trying to brainstorm a mechanism for this. And like sometimes you'll walk to the shop and look at old parts or whatever. And it's like, you can't do that now. So I think all the students and the mentors have to be a little bit more creative to try
Mhm.
and make things work. So I'm really excited. I'm so proud of all of our teams here in Ontario who are managing to make this work. And I understand it's been a huge challenge, but we're going to talk a little bit later about some tips on prototyping and some cool prototyping that we've seen that helps people go through this journey. So that's going to be really good. And yeah,
Mhm.
but on that topic, we got a lot of good stuff coming up on the show today. We've got some amazing guests from Humber College, Western University, and also we got members of the First Hall of Fame talking about the Chairman's Award. Vanshika, are you very involved with 2056's Chairman's Award, or are you?
I like to, help out with every single thing. If you ask anybody in the team, I'm like everywhere. I'm always trying to help out in any way because, like, I just like doing stuff. Like, even if it's just like me editing like the chairman's like essay or something like that, but not like exclusively.
Yeah,
Not part of
but
that.
yeah, but yeah, we'll be talking Chairman's Awards, so that's really cool. It's First Hall of Fame. They're a good group, so this is going to be great. Hey, for everyone who's watching right there throughout the show, if you have any questions, post them in the Twitch chat, and we will try and answer them live on air. And remember, we're here to have some fun and celebrate excellence in our community. So let's keep the energy and confidence positive, and it'll be really good. And so now, as is tradition on the show, Vanshika, I'm going to turn it over to you for the Youth Council Wellness Moment because I think we could all use a little bit of wellness in our lives.
I think the biggest wellness moment is taking naps. I know it sounds silly, but
No, I love a
I
good nap.
think that like naps are just like top tier wellness moment things. Like they help you like regain energy and like improve your overall mental health. And like, especially like after you have like a long day at like school, or like, you just like had a stressful day, like, you just wake up and you just feel fresh and motivated. And in fact, they actually help boost your memory, performance, and ease stress, which I think is helpful for everybody, especially during these times.
I am big on the napping thing. I wasn't when I was in high school. I hadn't really discovered it or whatever. But when I started at Waterloo, it just kind of became like, at university, it's nice because like, you're seeing people, you're doing sorts of stuff. And I loved like walking home from campus at like around 3 o'clock or whatever, and just like hopping into bed, napping for like an hour and a half. And it's like, okay, I'm ready. Go to the dinner hall, hang out with people, do some studying, go out or whatever. But just like that power nap in school was like really big. And
Mhm.
I don't do it as much anymore, but sometimes it's nice after like a long day of work, just be like, okay, let's get an
Mhm.
hour in here. So
Yeah, they
for,
definitely help you regain some energy for sure.
and I was definitely known at the 11-14 shop where like, just these like 13, 14-hour days in the shop. I'm like, I'm not built for this anymore, folks. So I'm just gonna go take a nap over here for like an hour. Well, you keep
Mhm.
like wake me up if the robot's about to do something. But other than that,
Mhm.
but just want to make it clear there was other people supervising the kids while I was doing this. I was not leaving people unattended or anything like that. Sometimes. Yeah, that's a great wellness moment. Thanks to the youth council for coming up with all this stuff. And then Vanshika, next week the youth council is going to be on talking mental health, right?
We have a really cool presentations with a lot of cool tips and tricks for everybody, because you can never have too many tips on stuff. So,
Yeah, and mental health is just it's so important. And I think
mhm.
we got like a lot of a focus right now on our physical health, which is super important, obviously. But you have to be aware of what people might be going through and what's going on. And so that'll be a really good show next week. But hey, we're here for
Mhm.
this week, so let's take a look at our news updates. And our first news update is that First Canada Live every week. Boom, boom, boom. There's a show Tuesday nights, and right now we're doing like a lot of informative segments, talk segments, and that stuff. But once our event season starts, we will be doing award shows every Tuesday night. So because the judging is remote this year and our awards are being handed out in that way, we'll be announcing all the like chairman's awards, everything will be happening Tuesday nights on these shows. So stay tuned for more details on the timing of all these and how that's all going to work. But just know that from 7 to 8:30, this is where you come for your award shows and everything like that. So that'll be really good. Vanshika, I know you were probably very busy with scholarship applications at this time of year, right?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah, there's a
Hmm.
lot going on. And for the First Canada scholarships, the big ones, the deadline is January 31st. That is next week. That is like
Hmm.
super, super soon. I'm sure you have that same deadline etched in there. So for people who are applying to the Don Bosey Leadership Scholarship, the Canadian Women in STEM Award, or the First Canada Indigenous Scholarship, get those applications in. And let me tell you, like for some of these, there's a real chance. Don't think it's like, oh, there's only a couple days left, there's no way I can do this or whatever. Like just apply, and make sure
Hmm.
you get those in. That you got any tips for the students out there working on their scholarship applications?
Honestly, it's like I know my biggest like problem is writing too much, but I realize honestly, just write everything. Just whatever comes to your mind, just write it. And then, editing process is always the easiest once you get your ideas out for sure.
Yeah, and if you're wondering about like how to write an effective scholarship essay, the segment we're doing with the Hall of Fame about the Chairman's Award, it's the same strategies. The way you write an effective chairman's essay is the way you write an effective scholarship essay. And then when you are applying for jobs, it's the way you write an effective cover letter. And then when you are in industry and you're applying for grants or you're applying big business proposals, big deals, it's the same persuasive methodology you want to get in there. But I agree
Mhm.
totally, Vanshika. Get everything on paper and then figure out what are the most important things about me. And then just like
Mhm.
building a robot, I'm going giving all the tips and tricks right here. It's better to
Mhm.
do 3 things at 10 out of 10 than 5 things at 6 out of 10. So, focus on just a couple things, go really in detail on them, and then like your
Yeah.
application support it. Oh my God, it is like a chairman's submission, like, yeah,
Mhm.
it's great. But apply, folks. These scholarships are great, and we'll be announcing them later on. So,
And one big tip though
yep.
is to always like when you're applying for scholarships, I know it's so stressful. You're like, oh, somebody's probably so much better than me or whatever. Everybody is awesome in their own way. So, don't be scared to apply, regardless of what you have or haven't done.
Every scholarship winner I have met my life from when I was applying for scholarships, every scholarship winner always didn't, part of them didn't believe that they deserved it. They're like, oh, there's going to be someone better or whatever, but someone wins and that could be you. And we always put a lot of pressure on ourselves and like kind of, so it's okay. You can do this and you are deserving, you are valued. Other big things going on, but hey, about scholarships. Oh, I totally forgot. We've got one of our past scholarship recipients here, Namira, with the video talking about her experience.
My name is Namira Kadir, and I'm a first-year student studying neuroscience and politics on the pre-medicine track at Harvard University. I'm deeply humbled to say that I was the 2021 recipient of the Canadian Women's STEM Scholarship, sponsored by the Marai family, and it feels so surreal to say that right now. I remember when I first won, I was jumping up and down, I was shocked, and it took me a sec to realize that that was my reality. And this is my message to you to say that it could be yours too. I'd initially applied because I'd watched the previous winners talk on First Canada Live, and I was so inspired by their stories as women in STEM that I started to think about my own, and I realized the empowerment that I felt through my involvement in First. Prior to joining my FRC team, I barely even touched a screwdriver. I was terrified of drills, and now in university in a whole other country, I find a home away from home in a makerspace, and I owe all of that my journey and my mentors that I've gained through First. Writing my application was a very rewarding process, and I kept reminding myself that even if I didn't win, this was a really great experience to reflect on my journey, to think about my allies, my advocates, and also start to think really deeply about how I could be that advocate, that mentor, that support system for other young girls who are once in my position. So to anyone watching this right now, I highly recommend that you apply. Good luck to this year's applicants. And thank you again from the very bottom of my heart to First Canada and the Marai family for this tremendous opportunity. Good luck.
Right, thank you, Namira. That's really great advice, as always. And, I remember talking to Namira a year ago when she was working on her applications, and she was like, oh, I don't know, there's so many great applicants or whatever, but apply and see what happens. And, you might be a winner right there. Other things going on. Reminder that we have the FRC Ontario team Slack. It exists as a workspace where students, mentors can discuss, anything to do with game, your team building, all that sort of good stuff. There's some really good discussion on there. And especially if you're trying to troubleshoot a robot, once we get building, it's like, why doesn't my compressor turn on? You can post in there and someone will be able to help you. So we're dropping a link into chat where you can, which is the Slack invite, but make sure you join. It's a really, really good place for teams to collaborate. Also, for teams out there who are like, oh, we really could use some mentors this year. We're struggling. And for teams who might not be competing this year, but your mentors are looking, oh, we couldn't compete because our school board wouldn't let us, but we still want to help out. Consider signing up for the First Mentor Network. This can be accessed through your dashboard, and it's for teams looking to mentor or to be mentored. So we're putting that link into chat right now, but you can also just find it on your dashboard in one of the IMs. I forget which one, to be completely honest. There's so many IMs out there. And then if you're struggling with your robot, you have questions about the game, you're not sure how things work, First Hall of Fame Team 1114 has their online help desk in partnership with First Canada. It is live again. So go to frchelpdesk.ca and you can ask any sort of question in a private and controlled manner. And sometimes it can be answered with one email, sometimes maybe it'll be a Zoom call. And I don't think it'll happen this year, but in past years, sometimes 1114 will be like, hey, come to our shop and we'll just figure your robot out together. So it's just another way that First Community is always helping each other out. Those are our news updates, a lot of stuff going on, and we will be back with our first segment in just a couple seconds. But before we do that, let's take a look at a word from one of our sponsors. It's kind of wild. Magna's a great sponsor, and we've played that video a few times on the show. But I just noticed that I think that one of our guests, Tom from Team 503, was actually in that video. So I'm going to double check with Tom when he comes on there. But I definitely saw 503's robot. I think I saw Tom with his head in there. So we'll see about that. All right, now let's welcome our guests from Humber College. Dr. Sean Ghaffari is the Associate Dean in the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology, Advanced Manufacturing Cluster at Humber College. He received his MASc and PhD from the University of Waterloo, Department of Mechanical Engineering. He has more than 12 years of industry experience in the automotive and energy sectors and is proud to have provided his students with remarkable opportunities for employment. His role as Associate Dean of Advanced Manufacturing Cluster, including mechatronics engineering, mechanical, electromechanical, electronics, electrical, and computer engineering, provides him with plenty of opportunities to encourage and involve a large number of students and several faculties from different engineering disciplines in related applied research and industry projects. And Sean is a longtime friend of First Robotics. Welcome, Sean.
Hi, Karthik. Good to see you again.
Good to see you again. I'm excited to hopefully see you in person in a few weeks, man. It's actually happening. It'll be good. And Sean has a friend here, Dr. Farzad Bragani, holds a PhD and is a professional engineer, a fellow engineer of Canada. He is the Senior Dean of the Faculty of Applied Sciences and Technology, FAST. He is also the co-chair of the National Council of Deans of Apprenticeship, Trades and Technology, NCDATT, and the chair of Colleges of Ontario, Heads of Technology. Welcome, Dr. Bragani. Well, great to have both of you here from Humber College, one of our great partners.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, we at First Canada, we started having that event at Humber. I think it was 2019 was the first one, I believe we had. And I remember getting out. That was actually my first time on the campus. And I was just kind of blown away at how much cool stuff was going on in the campus and seeing everything going on, and then walking into the gym and the excitement of First Robotics and having so many of the Humber students volunteering. It was really, really cool. And so now we're excited to have you on the show. And I think, Vanshika, you wanted to start off with a question for.
Yeah, I was wondering what type of research and co-op opportunities does Humber College offer for engineering and science students?
Farzad, I think this is your question.
My question, sure. So again, as you mentioned that the program that we have from the mechatronic program to the ICT cluster and from mechanical, what you see is reflecting and mirroring the industry. So it means that all our work integrated learning co-op is related to one of our industry partner. Actually, Magna is one of our industry partner here with the Humber, and I see my colleagues are here. So any related to the industry, and we are in one of the best location in GTA. So easily we can connect the student to the industry, to work integrated learning, or to apply research, or through the capstone, so that they can start from the first semester, first year, they build and design and build the way that and First Robotic team do. So we don't wait for a long time and for the third or fourth year to engage you with the industry. Our approach is that when you come to the campus, we try to find a way to connect you to industry and the project and research.
That's really cool. And I think that's really going to appeal to a lot of our First Robotics students, because there's so many of them are coming off of 4 years of hands-on building with robots and stuff. And when they get to school, they want to start building right away, because they have those skills and talents. So that's really neat to know that's going on. Another question that we have, and this comes from, we brainstormed with some of our youth council members, and Vanshika and I talked about it a little bit earlier, but mental health is so important these days, and so many schools now are putting in new support systems. So I'm just wondering, what kind of support systems are present and effective at Humber?
I can take that. Basically, there are lots of resources at Humber College, from the academic advising. That's a lot of my faculty and also my colleagues are taking care of the students that's through their processing their study, which course they should take, what course is going to be matching their future career, and what they like actually, and how they can use their skills that they learned in the First Robotics in actual courses. We have student advisors talking about your future career, what type of the basically opportunities are staying for you outside of the college, and how you can advance your education to the other sectors and other pathways. We have academic helping, such as writing centers, peer tutoring. We have maths basically help, which basically we are working very closely to the students and make sure that they are going to be successful through their study at Humber. We have Ignite, which is a student hub, a cool place. A lot of students are involved in that. They are enjoying inside and outside of the campus life together. And also we have a financial help for the students.
That is fabulous. And, you know, for all our students who are watching out there, I really advise you to take advantage of the resources the schools have for you now. I know like when I went to school, there were not nearly as many resources, but now there's a lot of things out there. So don't be afraid to ask, and don't be afraid to reach out to the schools to help you out.
Yeah, definitely. Like as a student myself, I think support systems are really, really helpful, not even for like our education, but just like our overall, you know, well-being at school. And speaking of students, what other programs can undergraduate students complete at Humber?
Sounds like there's a lot.
Oh yeah, I think we need more than 15 minutes to talk about all of our programs. But generally speaking, Humber College is the largest college in Canada. We have more than 160 programs with plus 30,000 students in 2 major campuses that we have. We have 6 faculties, applied technology, obviously, a lot of students with the engineering background and plan to continue their education in the engineering, go to applied technology. And in the applied technology, we have different clusters, from the trade school to the ICT, which is the programming or computer, to the advanced manufacturing, which I am the associate dean of that, with the programs such as electrical, electronics, electromechanical, and our new mechatronics engineering basically program, which is pretty new, very, very cool new courses in it. Lots of new technologies we are implementing within this program. Also, we have other faculties, business, health, liberal arts, media and creative art. This is something that a lot of students like to continue their education in that, and social and community services.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I feel like there's like a lot of programs and like, you know, a lot of opportunities for students.
Yeah, you are correct, Vanshika. Humber College is large. It's a huge, the different campuses, lots of faculty, a lot of our faculty coming from the industry. So we have a very close connection with the industry, not only as our partners within our program, but also a lot of them are coming from the industry, actually working in the industry and bringing their experience from the industry in the classrooms.
Mm-hmm. Another question I did have was, what makes Humber's School of Applied Technology different from other colleges?
As simple. So let's discuss it as an engineer to engineer or future engineer. So we consider educational system as a system. So the system theory applied to that system or our programming. It means that when you say that what is the best, I cannot say that why the Humber is the best, but only I am saying that what is the best domain of within the system we have. One of the things that you have to pay attention when you choose your college or a school is we call it engineering space, the space that you wanted to play, your playground. So when you wanted to go to robotic, you have to go and see that if they have the best robotic lab, and I guarantee you that the Humber had the best robotic lab. And if you wanted to see that who is teaching that robotic lab or who is involved with you during your journey of the learning, you have to have somebody who has a fundamental understanding of fundamental of the engineering, but at the same time is very practical, engineer-minded, coming from industry, connected to the industry, because we are taking you from journey from point A to point B. So these are the dots that we have to get everybody can understand, go through the fundamental and principle of engineering. But what is the application? Who is teaching you application? So this element of the best faculty and the best lab and space, I think we can say that our engineering school or a school of faculty of applied science and technology is one of the best in GTA.
I can add some couple of facts too. We have very small classes. So faculty are very close to the students. Lots of hands-on opportunity. Almost every single basically program that we have, they have the projects which within each semester. I'm talking not about the projects on the PowerPoint. I'm talking about the projects of actual working in the shop, making something, presenting, troubleshooting, the things that's the first robotic participant going every day to day to it. We have a lot of new technologies, number of the technologies which even doesn't exist in the lots of universities. We are very unique to have them. We have basically a work integrated and co-op opportunity within all of our programs, and especially that we have an office that helps students to find job, co-op job, and also work integrated learning. So it is not only having the program ready, but also helping them to prepare the resume, how they go to the interview and the other stuff. And the most important one, that we are very, very good in the competition. Each year we are going to participate in the skills competition, which I'm very proud that mechatronics team of Humber represented twice Canada in the world. And this year also we are going to the world skills competition again. And we have teams in the different categories of the skills. So you like competition, Humber is your choice.
That sounds like a big part of our audience here. And, on the topic of some of the extracurricular clubs there, I want to, Dr. Ghaffari, Dr. Ghani, put a picture if you were a student today, which club at Humber would you want to join?
So the club that from the day one, we design and build and operate the system, which in this case, your robotic system. So this is the interesting that we sponsor any engineering club or any club that the students come to the office of the dean and come with a proposal and say that we are five of us, we are thinking about having, say, robotic or their own club. We look at your proposal and we support it. And Sean has a lot of example of the supporting engineering club for the students, that the students, we put a lot of connected with the industry, buy the equipment, buy the stuff for them, and they started to build it from day one. So any engineering club that the students want to do, come to our office. Let's see that what is your proposal, and we will support you.
Obviously, one of my favorites is the competitions, skills, and there are different clubs for each of the competition. It's so cool. It's intensive, I can tell you, especially the ones that go to the provincial, to the Canada, and to the world. And as Dr. Raigani mentioned, if you have a cool idea and you want to make a club yourself, welcome. Just bring us a proposal, and then we are going to support you. So the sky is not limited.
That is really cool. I think because so many of our first students, they've done the same sort of thing, where many of our first students didn't have a team when they got to their high school, and they went to their teachers and said, we've heard about FIRST, and this is so exciting. And they put together the proposal, like, we need to start a team, that sort of thing. And so then you can do that at Humber. So basically, you're not just going to Humber for the clubs that exist. Any club that you could possibly think of, or a competition that you've heard of, you could possibly make that real. And I think that's really empowering for the students. So
absolutely.
We are running out of time, Sean and Farzad, but I just wanted to, any final words you have for our audience before we go?
If you wanted to think out of the box, please join us in a Humber. We will support you. We will be behind you to get you to the dream that you have. I see that where you are. I love that.
That's powerful. And Sean?
We will give you the tools to think out of the box.
That is amazing. Thank you so much for being on the show. I love the energy you bring, and there's clearly a lot of pride of what you all are doing at Humber. And for all our students, check out Humber. A bunch of links are going into chat right now where you can learn more, where you can follow them on social media. You can go to their website, which has so many details about some of the cool stuff that we saw, and check it out. And hopefully, as long as everything goes the way we're planning on it going, we'll be seeing everyone in about like a month and a bit. So it's going to be great for the Humber College event. I will be there. I'll ready to, this only difference is I'll just have a mask on when I'm emceeing, but I'm going to be running around that field, shouting out the team numbers, and it's going to be a good time. So thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for
very nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Vanshika, and also good to see you, Karthik.
Bye-bye.
And for our teams also who are watching, don't forget that the EveryBot build will be happening February 5th and 6th. Humber is going to be helping out with that. And so it'll be a live broadcast. Watch for a link coming up soon. And we will be back with Western University after a word from one of our sponsors. All right, we're back. And, we like talking school so much. We're going to bring out another school. So please welcome from Western University. She's a First Canada alum from Team 3756 Ramferno in London, BSc, BEd, MPED, and Manager of Outreach and Recruitment, undergraduate graduate studies at Western University for the Faculty of Engineering. She's also a mom, a CrossFitter, a dog owner to a 6-month-old Dachshund named Astrid, who may be making a guest appearance at some point, just saying. She's been involved with FIRST since high school, and saw everything come full circle when she organized and oversaw the first ever FRC competition at Western. She's been working at Western for the last 8 years and oversees everything FIRST at the university. Welcome, Joanne Moniz. Joanne, I still remember, this is now like 12 years ago, me coming to your high school back in the day. I don't know if you were there when I came, but when we started we had this first meeting to get that team started, and now we've had this great event at Western for years and years, and so many teams in the London area. Like I can't even count the teams in the London area.
So many teams now. It's a remarkable, actually, how many teams there are.
Yeah, and now like London's getting involved heavily with First Tech Challenge and obviously First Lego League. So it's been great to see all that support of at Western. And I know for me, I did a work term when I was at Waterloo at Western. Like those 4 months were like the happiest 4 months of my undergrad career. So it's just always good to be working with Western. And please welcome a third-year software engineering student from Western University, Mahira Mafta, who believes that software engineering is like a superpower that we can use to make the world a better place. She loves learning more about engineering, and she loves that she's able to share this passion through her work with the Western Engineering Outreach Department. So welcome, Mahira.
Hi, I'm so happy to be here today.
Yeah, we're glad to have you here. And, First Canada, we've been thrilled at all the support that Western's given over the years, hosting First Lego League events, hosting FRC events, FRC kickoffs, hosting a couple FRC teams who would work out of the campus with the incubator and stuff. So many good people. And it's just, that Western event, I love going to that event. Well, first of all, it gives me an excuse to be back on Western campus. And it's usually like at the end of March when the weather's starting to get a little bit better and everyone's emerging from winter hibernation. So it's a good time. But I don't know, Vanshika, do you want to start us off with some questions?
Yes, I think everybody is wondering, what can you share with us about Western Engineering?
So I can take that to start. So Western Engineering, if you don't know much about us, we're in London, Ontario. And so we're like a mid-size engineering school. So all of our first year students are put into cohorts where you actually get to be with the same group of students for all of your classes in first year, which is great when you're trying to get projects done, when you're trying to make teams with people, trying to meet new people. It's a really great opportunity. And we have a bunch of different programs for engineering and disciplines. But the big thing that we have is a common first year. So if you're not really sure of what type of engineering you want to do, or you kind of want to test things out, engineering at Western is great because you can get to try a little bit of each before you have to really select which one you want to do in second year.
Yeah, I definitely think that's really helpful for many students who have a passion for engineering, but really don't know where they fit in yet. So that's pretty cool.
And I think it's also going to be even more important for our students who are graduating this year who've gone through pandemic schooling, because high school has been it's been a blur, and so it's so hard to kind of make these big decisions on what specific program of engineering. And so having that extra, I wouldn't call it an extra year, but having that year where you are with a cohort of people that you get to know them, and then to make decisions based on that, I think that's really, really important. But I'm speaking of specific programs, Mahira, you are a software engineer. And so what made you choose that after your first year at Western?
So when I first got into Western, I was terrified of my programming course. I was so scared because in high school, I never thought that I would ever do software engineering. I said, I would never do that. That seems so hard. But when Western made me take the programming course, I just fell in love with coding and I worked really hard. And I found out that coding is it's a superpower that's really simple, but it's really popular at the same time. And you can create anything at any time. That's why I chose it.
That's really cool. So did you have any programming background when you started at Western?
Never, zero.
Wow. And now you're on track to being a software engineer.
Yes.
I think that's really important for students to pay attention to, because I think sometimes you get into this mindset, especially on an FRC team, where there's a couple students who are like rock star programmers and they're doing all the programming work. You're like, oh, I'm too scared. I could never get into it. But like, you're interested by it. You've been inspired, and you're like, but you can still become a software engineer without having that experience. And, at a school like Western, they're going to give you the tools to go along that way. And Mahir, you said you were like a little bit nervous about that first software engineering or that first coding course that you took at Western. How did that course go for you though?
I had an amazing professor, Dr. Uda. He was an amazing professor. He made us ask all the questions that we want, and he made it seem like a safe place where you ask away all your questions. So I understood the subject really well, and I fell in love with it. It was the best course I've ever taken in my entire life.
I think it's really, really important for students. Like, it's such a good message for our students to hear, is because I think a lot of people now, because you hear about how competitive schools are and how it's like, oh, like Vanshika, we were talking about it with the scholarships earlier. It's like, oh, everyone's done so much stuff. Like, how could I possibly be an engineer? Like, I haven't coded or whatever. It's okay. Schools are here to teach you how to solve problems, and that's what at the core of engineering is. And so that's really cool. That's just, I love hearing stories like that, Mahira, because I think it's really, I don't know, it's good for people to hear.
Joanne, I know that you were part of FIRST, so tell us about some connections between Western Engineering and FIRST.
So some of them have been kind of highlighted before, but we do a lot of events. So we've done FRC, we've done FLL. There's some incubator teams that kind of use Western Engineering as a space if they don't have a school they can work out of. One of the new things that we've actually been doing with FIRST is bringing the FLL mats and loaning them out actually to teachers who have never done FLL before, or have maybe seen another teacher do it and are kind of like, what is that? So we've been loaning them out to potential FLL teams to try them out, to figure out like what that will be. And then what's really nice is because we have so many FRC teams in London that we know through competition is that we can connect them with those potential FLL teams, which just, again, is in the spirit of FIRST, of getting everyone mentored, getting everyone connected, and really just builds that community. So FIRST and Western are like hand in hand in terms of FIRST has always been part of Western Engineering, and we've always loved FIRST as well. So yeah, really connected through and through.
Yeah, I definitely think like opportunities like that are really, really important, especially the fact that you're loaning out like resources for like potential FLL team, because like they might not know what it is, but then after like, testing it out and learning more, you're creating more teams, which is like awesome.
And one thing I really love about Western is Western feels very integrated within the London community as well. There's some schools you go to and it's like you go to the school's almost like a bubble away from that. But I love that you're, that you're working with first, but you're also working with the local schools, and you're this partnership to get things going. And, that's just a really nice feel of everything there, because like, I think a lot of people are looking for that sense of community with the school. So that's always been neat. Mihira, you talked a little bit about, you had this great computer science professor in first year and everything, but what else have you enjoyed about your learning experience at Western?
I've really enjoyed that now in my third year, I'm starting to get a lot more of hands-on experience where we are assigned real projects and you have to think outside the box of how to use them. So we're no longer being taught, this is how to do it. We are taught now how to think outside the box. And to add on to that, something I'm really enjoying it is I'm now looking into co-ops and internships, and Western is really giving me all the support that I need into applying, how to write a good resume, a cover letter, to be able to get this hands-on experience.
Well, that's really major, because I think a lot of students, and Vanshika, you could speak to this, are looking for that sort of co-op opportunity, right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think having resources makes it like a lot less stressful as well, because you're like, you have somebody to lean on to help you out, and it's not like you're alone. So. And
so Mihira, you said, third year software engineering, like what are like some of the cool courses that you're taking? Because I think a lot of times high school students, they figure out, okay, like I know what is going to happen in first year, but like they don't really know what's going to happen. I know I had no idea what was going to be happening in third or fourth year when I started school. I was just like, let me just get through one semester at a time. But like, are there so what are some of the cool courses that are the students could look forward to?
So now in third year, you are done all the calculus, all the math, all those theory stuff. And now some really cool courses is a software development course where the entire course is just developing a big project, which is developing a big game to teach students a sorting algorithm. That's really cool, because just making something big.
That, I'm such a loser, but I was already interested in that. And you're like, oh yeah, it's about sorting algorithms. I love sorting algorithms. And I'm like, okay, well, Karthik, you just need to stop. Just like when before you're like, oh, you're done all the calculus stuff. It's like, I love that. Anyways. It's good stuff. And then, there's the school experience, but Western also is known for having like a vibrant extracurricular scene. And so what are some of the clubs, Mihira, that are available for students, or maybe a club that you're part of?
I will talk about my experience. Personally, I am in the Women in Engineering Club, where I'm in the Big Sister, Little Sister program, where I get to mentor another first year engineering student. And another club is Western AI, where you get to develop and work on a real project. We are now working using Python on how to train, for example, a 2D robot. So getting this real life experience where you can put it on your resume and actually learn. So these are the two clubs that I'm currently in.
Sounds really cool. And so now, Mihira, when you were like in first year, did you have like a big sister who was mentoring you through that? Or is that what kind of inspired you in this?
Yes, I did have a big sister in my first year, and she gave me a lot of support. She was like, this course, you need these notes, this course, you need a textbook. And it was just amazing having the support, because it was really scary going into university. You don't know anyone, but then all of a sudden you're assigned with an upper year student that just knows everything. It's amazing.
And I think for our first students, that's going to be really comforting, because number one, they've had great mentors to this program, but also lots of them are looking forward to giving back and becoming mentors. So this is another way that you can mentor young people. So that's really cool. And so like, Mihira, you said like the big sister was like a great resource to you, but Joanne, what other resources exist for students at Western? Oh, hello, puppy.
Yes, this is the puppy, sorry.
That's okay.
I think the big one that we just implemented actually this past year, partially in part because a lot of high school students are coming out like of a weird exam period, COVID, not really being in class. We've started, it's called Smart Start. With Western Engineering. And so it starts kind of in the summer, and it's different modules that students can take kind of leading into their first year to see if they're prepared or if they maybe need a little bit of extra help. All of our first year instructors are on this program as well. So students prior to even coming to first year are able to meet their instructors. They're able to see if they have everything they need. They're able to get a feel of what classes will be like and feel prepared going into first year. So that's been a really good thing for our first years. They've said, it's been really helpful to have that. And then on top of that, we have all our academic and counseling support. We have, as Mihira said, we have mentors for students. So really engineering at Western is a family, and it's that team atmosphere that we really strive for.
Yeah, I
And
definitely,
sorry,
oh,
please.
I
Go,
was
go.
just gonna say, I definitely like as a high school student, I definitely like the idea of like having support for future high school students who are gonna go into Western, because like I probably had like 1.5 year of like actual high school experience. And then after that, everything was just like out here. It's like everything's changing every minute. So I definitely like that.
Yeah, and one cool thing that I always felt like whenever I was on Western campus, it always felt like everyone was in it together. There's some schools where there's like this real competitive vibe between student and non-student, and at Western, I didn't feel. I just felt like everyone was there to support each other, and so it's just a great place to be, great vibes, and we love everything that's happening there with First and all that good stuff. Joanne Mahira, thank you so much for coming on. We can't wait. I can't wait to get back on campus at some point for an event. It'll
At some
happen.
point.
It'll happen eventually. It'll be a good time. And, for our folks who are watching this, we always want to go to the Western event or volunteer or register or whatever. And for people, apply. It's a great school. And, any final words, Joanne or Mahira?
Mahira, you can go if you like.
Thank you so much for having me this year again. I had so much fun, and I hope I helped to clarify some info for anyone that's wondering about Western.
Awesome. Thank you so much. And we will be back in just a couple seconds.
Bye.
Vanshika, I really wish I'm jealous. I'm jealous of you right now because I wish that when I was applying to universities, that I was just this much information and people to talk to and that sort of stuff. And like there was still there were resources then, but it was just so much harder to get access to and everything like that. But like all I know is like after that, like I'm not even exaggerating, folks. This isn't me saying this because he has to say this because he's the host of the show. I like literally want to like apply to Humber Western right now because like I was just like, yeah, that sounds so cool and everything. And yeah, it's just like it's
Yeah,
good. Like
I as a high school student, I can tell you all this like support that's been given is just like awesome. And it just makes it less stressful for us, especially like during this time, because like I said, like nobody knows what's going on. Everything's changing for high school students like every second, so all the support that we can get is just really, really helpful.
yeah, it's a nice feeling knowing, because anytime you start something new, whether it be a new school, a new job, new relationship or whatever, it's scary. There's no way of getting around it, but knowing that you have support makes it like, okay, yeah, like this is okay. This is going to be okay. Like I'm not, jumping into the void. But Vanshika, you know what? It is time to talk Rapid React presented by the Boeing Company, the new game. And so I would love to hear what your thoughts are on the game.
I think this game is like super cool. Like I think this is like probably my top 5 favorite games so far for First, because there's so many cool things that are like happening, especially like trying to get the robots to like go from like one rung to like another. Like I can just imagine that. Especially my favorite part is that we're going to get to see some really amazing basketball skills from the human players. I think if we see some half court shots, it's going to be pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I've said this on the show every week since the game's come out. I love this game. I think it is fantastic. I think there's challenges for all levels of team, and I think like but it's still very attainable, so it's not going to be overwhelming. But there's a lot of discrete challenges, and I think we can talk a little bit about some of them. And one of the discrete challenges is like how to effectively control cargo. And for our teams, and you all are out there, you're living this right now. Many of you have not even touched a piece of cargo yet because you haven't been able to get in for meetings and stuff. And so it's like, how do we do this? But thankfully, because the First community there's so much sharing going on in there. Tyler Holtzman, vacuum grippers for the win. Please don't kill me, bro. Please don't. But so many teams in the First community are sharing their prototyping videos. And for our Canadian teams, I really urge you to take a look at what's out there. And so one of the teams who's known for fabulous prototypes is Team 2363 Triple Helix from Newport News, Virginia. And they share all their prototypes on their YouTube channel, and they do a little bit of an analysis on what stuff works and what doesn't. So let's take a look at one of their new intake prototypes for cargo. You can see these flaps are doing a lot of work here. Those are you know, because traditionally when people have done intakes in the past, it's just been like direct roller contact, but the flaps doing a lot of work with the cargo. And I think that really makes a difference because the cargo doesn't compress as much as the previous game objects, so the flaps in that regard.
Yeah, it also seems to work really, really well.
Yeah, oh, they're onto something here. And then now you can see the feeding directly into their shooter as well. So it's self-centering a little bit with the belts going on. So
yeah.
And then we're gonna see a shot. We're gonna see a shot. There we go. There's cool stuff out there. And like, I really recommend one of our producers, Sarah, has put the link in chat. Triple Helix's prototyping videos. There are so many good ones. And some years, some of them will get like 10,000, 50,000 views. Like they had a great intake prototype that they showed off in 2018 for the cargo, what was it called? The power cubes. And so I really recommend the teams take a look at this sort of stuff because I know it's frustrating right now because it's like, I don't know how the game objects interact and stuff, but you can learn a lot from the other teams.
Yeah,
so,
especially for like rookie teams that like haven't even like gotten a chance to like compete once. Like seeing these like prototypes really helps them like brainstorm and like get a place to like start almost.
Yeah, and so, you know, Vanshika, you talked about like the excitement of the hang. We're going to take a look at some hanging prototypes, and this is from Team 3847 Spectrum, and they share everything that their team does. Every single thing gets put on the internet. They're part of the Open Alliance, which is just fabulous. And we looked at some of their intake prototypes right after kickoff, but now we're going to be looking at their hang stuff. And I gotta say, they post videos like every day as they've been working on this hang prototype. And I love this so much. It kind of reminds me of like Tony Stark working on Iron Man suits. And Tony Stark specifically, I don't know if anyone remembers like Iron Man 1, but Tony Stark had the Dumb E and the Dumb U robots, which kind of struggled at times. And that's the thing about prototyping, because a lot of people see like finished products from teams and you're like, oh my goodness, how could I ever do something like that? It's like, it just works. It just works perfectly. But no prototype just works perfectly. And there's a lot of iteration you go through where things break, you know, and Spectrum shows all of it. So let's take a look at their first prototype for trying to do a multi-level hang. So let's see how it goes here. They got a couple arms that are hooked onto the bar, and they're going to release to go to the next level, and let's see what happens here.
3, 2, 1.
Oh. It happens.
It was almost there. It was almost there.
You know, Alan Gregory, their lead mentor, I love the dude because he's like the Tony Stark. He's like struggling through this, and the students, you can hear in their voices, but you know what? They kept on working and they said, okay, let's try again. So now let's take a look at another hang attempt for their prototype, which is advanced a little bit here. And so they've changed things up. So don't start it just yet, Heather, but you can see there's, you know, they've reinforced things a little bit. So let's see what happens with test number 2. Oh, okay. All right. It's getting there. It's getting there. But
it's getting there.
Yeah, they got the big compressor hooked up and
what just happened?
I'm honestly not 100% sure. I did not expect that fall at all.
That commentary, I think, is like the highlight of the video.
I love it.
I was not pleased. It threw itself off the bar so fast. And I have zero idea why it did that.
My day is not done until I watch the 3847 prototype videos. But so they kept working and they're like, okay, let's try something different. And then like, let's simulate it more with some more accurate conditions. And so they started to have some successes. So let's take a look at another video. And here you'll notice they like assembled a whole robot frame and like, look, see how smart they are? Because they know things have failed a few times. They've got padding underneath, so if it falls, it's got like a bounce spot right there, which is really cool. Yeah. And hey, look, they got a big plywood board in case it's going to swing into the wall. Like they're ready for this, you know? It's like, again, like in Iron Man 2, it's like dummy with the fire extinguisher. So let's take a look.
I also like how they like changed up the design each time.
Oh yeah, because you're constantly iterating to make things work. So there's 2 hooks. So there's a, you know, point of failure. Like, hey, we got this going. So let's take a look at this one. Also, I love that they hooked up the drill triggers to control the prototype accurately, as opposed to like plugging in a battery and like Jari Anderson connectors.
We're gonna flip this up.
Oh yeah.
And then I'm just gonna pull the motors and see what happens.
Oh, let's see what
Ready?
happens here.
3.
I'm hoping it works.
1.
Look at
That's
that.
awesome.
That's a climb. That's a climb if I've ever seen one.
You know what I love?
The wall.
The commentary,
So
the
we're
joy.
okay.
There's nothing better than when your prototype works. It's like, oh my goodness, this happened. And
yeah,
so let's say,
especially after like going through so many designs, it's like when you finally get that one right design, it's like, it's amazing.
yeah. So let's take a look at another hang attempt and let's see how this one plays out as they keep refining things and they keep, design is an iterative process. So they got bumpers on it now because, protected everything going on. Oh, there's a lot of wires and pneumatic hose hooked up. This is an impressive rig. So Spectrum's next attempt.
Buttons work. Okay. That let go completely by itself, so we didn't even have to use the pneumatic for that. We should just be able to flip.
Oh yeah. So going from the mid, getting up to the high.
There. Feel the latch.
That's 10 points right there. Can they go for 15?
That's
Going
so
for the hookup.
interesting how their arms are going like that.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh my gosh, it's swinging so much.
They made it happen, and that is, the genius of and so teams out there, I'm sure there's plenty of teams in Ontario who've sketched up ideas like that, but they're like, I don't know if this works yet. And it's like, I don't know if we can even build this or whatever, but like now, teams take a look at the videos that are out there, look at where teams have failed, look at where teams have succeeded and try and implement things from this. But it's just such an important process to go through. But and there's so much good stuff out there. Sarah has put the link in chat for the Spectrum blog. And like, I'm not even kidding. Every day they update it with new videos, new pictures, so you can see this journey. And like, I'm invested in this hang. I'm invested in their entire season. I need to see how, Tony Stark finally gets his suit launched and all that good stuff. And I'm looking forward.
I don't know if this is just like me, but like watching these videos just gets me even more excited for competitions. Just like seeing these and like imagining how like all these teams are like developing these really cool mechanisms. Like, I don't know. It gets me really excited. That's all I'm going to say.
Every day I'm just like looking for videos on the web to see like what teams have come up with and everything. And I've seen some really interesting ones recently because this is teams who've been shooting into the high goal, and it's been really interesting discussion on balls bouncing out of the high goal. And so for teams who may be designing right now in Ontario but haven't had a chance to prototype anything, I would be cautious as you're designing your high goal shooters, just to make sure that you're thinking about the impact of bounce outs, because based on some of the videos we're seeing, a lot of balls are bouncing out. Now, maybe that doesn't happen on a real accurate first field. Maybe it has to do with how you're prototyping. Whenever you're prototyping, you have to consider is like, is this an issue with the prototype or is this an issue with the experiment, the way it's set up like that? But I'd be thinking about, maybe lofting your shots a little bit more. Maybe normally you want to use a lot of backspin before, because our shots would be hitting chain. You want it to roll down, but I think you kind of want the opposite to be happening here. And thinking maybe the trajectory to hit off the back wall of the cone so it bounces down as opposed to hitting dead center. I don't know. These are things to think about, but
yeah, there's lots of problem solving you got to do.
Search the Open Alliance on Chief Delphi to find all sorts of videos and everything else. Anything else you want to say about the game, Vanshika?
Honestly, I am just waiting for, competitions to start and just like watch all the videos, because even if I'm not going to like a certain competitions, I'm going to be here watching it happen and just cheering on the teams and just seeing all the amazing things that are going to happen.
And when you say you're going to be here watching, because that's exactly where you're going to be, twitch.tv/First Canada. That's where our webcast will be. We'll be using all of our Twitch channels. So First Ontario 1, 2, 3, and 4 will be in action at various times, and we'll be mirroring to First Canada so you can see the good stuff that's going on. And I'm so excited. I want to see robots. When we were talking to Farzad and Sean earlier, it's like to be back at Humber and to see what teams are going to come up with. It'll be really, really good. So it's going to be a blast, and we are going to keep talking about all sorts of stuff FRC, but this time we're going to shift over to the Chairman's Award with our members of the First Hall of Fame. So we'll be back in just a couple of seconds. Garage doors open, garage doors closed, garage doors open. Hey, we're back. All right, time to bring out members of the first Hall of Fame, starting with Sarah Heimlich from Team 3132, Thunder Down Under from Sydney, Australia, Hall of Fame member since 2017, first alum and the first ever person to win both a Dean's List Award and Woody Flowers Finalist Award. Hey, Sarah. Sarah, are you still the only one who's won who's pulled off that combo?
No, I believe there's a second. I think it's Luke Simi from
Oh,
our other Hall of Fame inductees in 2017, Mars.
Mars. So not only are you Dean's List and Woody Flowers Award winner, but you're also a Hall of Fame member. Like that's like the most exclusive. Well, it's not the most because Luke's in it too. So there's two of you, but really good stuff. Thank you for being here, Sarah. I know it is already Wednesday morning because you're out in Australia right now. And also welcome Lori Shimizu from Team 1816, the Green Machine from Medina, Minnesota, Hall of Fame since 2019. This year will hopefully be actually finally inducted properly at the championship. And Lori wears many hats. You may recognize her as one of the chief volunteer coordinators for the first robotics competition. Hi, Lori.
Hi, Karthik. Thanks for having us on this evening.
Thanks for being here. And hey, Lori, feel free to recruit volunteers. Use the show.
Absolutely.
Everyone signed up. That's
absolutely
how we expect it. And one of Lori's teammates, also from Team 1816 and a first alum, we've got Rachel Earle. Hi, Rachel. Hi, Rachel.
Hi.
There we go.
Excited to be here.
Glad to have you here. And Rachel, you got special insights because you've had an opportunity to be a chairman's judge last year doing some of the online sort of stuff like that. So we got like double insights coming here. So that's really exciting and fabulous. So, and you've been on both sides of the coin as a mentor and a student. So when you were a student, were you heavily involved on the chairman's side of 1816 or Lori's laughing. So I'm taking that as a big yes.
Yes. My first year on the team was our second chairman's win. So we had like a 5-year hiatus from chairman's. And then I was on the team that started our kind of more organized effort to submit for awards back in 2012.
Very, very, very cool. And we have another first alum. This is James Austin from Team 1902, Exploding Bacon from Orlando, Florida. Welcome, James. And so, you've gone through the process of being a student on a team, involved with the chairman's submissions. Now you are a journalist for a living, right?
Yeah, I write for Wirecutter.com. I do a lot of research and reporting, and I get to test a lot of things, which is very firsty in its own way.
So, once you got into journalism, did you feel that your time on a first team working on chairman's essays helped prep you for that?
Oh yeah, no, I'm a journalist because of FIRST, which is not something I think a lot of people say, but it's the communications involved with FIRST competition team are what you do in general. It's talking to people, it's learning, it's getting the information out clearly. That's all FIRST.
That is very, very true. And Lori, you used to be a journalist earlier in your career, right?
Yes.
So you see the
enough said. The communications aspect cannot be emphasized enough when you're part of a FIRST robotics team. It truly is a fabulous experience watching students like James and Rachel and Sarah just come alive when they're talking about their team, when they're talking about their robots, when they're talking about their community outreach. It's just outstanding.
Very, very true. And our final guest, one of the newest members of the FIRST Hall of Fame from Team 503, Frog Force from Novi, Michigan. It is Tom Hospital. Tom, an engineer at Ford, been involved with Frog Force since 2012 and, just been doing everything. Welcome, Tom. Congratulations again. You well deserved.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
I think, all of us who've been in the Hall of Fame for a while would be like, okay, is Frog Force going to be in the Hall of Fame soon? Because it just was like this journey of amazing things year after year after year.
You know who else was asking that every year? Frog Force was. So super happy to be here. Thanks.
And Tom, I think even before we get started with all of this, I think I want to ask, because it's a common thing that a lot of teams who are on the precipice kind of wonder is like, how do we keep doing new things? Because the judges are looking on a focus for the last 3 years. How do we keep it fresh? And how was Frog Force able to do that for so many years?
Honestly, it's tough, especially for as long as we did it. We won our first chairman's award in 2005. And so it was 16 years later. A lot of what we did, especially the last 6 or 7 years, was really more about sustainability and growing stuff we had already started. And we were doing some really, really big stuff and some really hard stuff. So we didn't want to just ditch that and move on to the next thing that was really important to us, whatever that meant for the award. But what we were doing, we just, you do constantly, there's some natural growth, and there's also some, let's be honest, there's some looking for growth, right? How can we make this bigger? How can we make this better? How can we reach more people? So it's really just about expanding what we were already doing.
And I know it could be intimidating, because I remember in 2012, the year that 1114 got into the Hall of Fame, I remember we talked with the students' mentors and we're like, I don't know how we top this, because we've done like everything this year. And for us to have to come up with something else new, is I would say, like, if we don't get in this year, can we just like do something else? I don't know, like, please. But yeah, it's one of the challenges, and some things we'll talk about here. So I guess the first question for the group is, because I think a lot of people aren't fully aware, but what is the first Hall of Fame?
Oh, I'll take this one.
I'm like, one of you knows the answer.
The first Hall of Fame is the collection of teams that have won the Chairman's Award at the World Championship. So it's a very small group of teams that have won. I can't remember if we're at 29 teams or 31, maybe.
Something like that. Yeah,
something like that. So it's also a great team of resources. So if you have any questions throughout the process, reach out to any of the Hall of Fame teams, even if you don't have one in your area. Always happy to help, always happy to listen, give some insight, and check out our website, as we will mention. It has a lot of great resources on it as well.
Yeah, and the Hall of Fame kind of is, to a certain degree, is like an advocacy group now for FIRST, where Hall of Fame works with teams. They work to help create resources for teams through judging, work to tweak the judging process. So if you have feedback on all this sort of stuff, we're going to be sharing a bunch of links on where to find all this stuff. But yeah, it's good. And Vanshika, we're talking Chairman's Award, right? So what do you?
Yeah, I was gonna say, speaking of resources, like, what are the keys to like an effective chairman submission? I think everybody's wondering that.
So take it away. I think you have some slides you want to share. All right, we'll get those slides up. And yeah, because I think right now is, some teams have started their essays, some have not yet, but I think they're all kind of looking to like, okay, like, where do we go with this? So take it away, folks.
Cool. So I'll go ahead and start us off. One of the first things that's useful when planning anything, whether that's a robot or your team structure or the Chairman's Award itself, 1902 did something called a strategic planning meeting every beginning of the year, right before the season started. Not only was that helping out planning like build season and all that, but what we wanted to do that year, what projects we wanted to start off, what initiatives to either start or maintain, which is one of the, again, like Tom said, it was one of the things that really, as you get later on, focus really shifts towards maintaining and expanding. And having that sort of set at the beginning of the year and work on that is very crucial. So that's a place that we normally started. And I see 1816 has buckets up here, and that's one of the things that we sort of identify as you go through. So if y'all want to talk about that.
Since Rachel was a major proponent of organizing the things that the team does into the buckets, I'll have Rachel speak to that point.
Buckets are our term that we call, they're kind of our broad headers. So like your essay needs to be grouped, we've always followed the rule of three. So we listed out all of our events like a brainstorm, and then they all had to go in a bucket. They all had to fit into what bucket we were doing.
I really like that bucket concept, because I think it can be really overwhelming, because some teams, have done so much stuff. It's like, what do we talk about? And so it's like, number one, categorize. And then, on 1114, we always treated the chairman's submission like building a robot. And so there has to be a strategic design to it. And it's like, what are we going to focus on? So our big thing was, you can't talk about everything because there's just too much. So we'd rather just focus on a few things. So we would go to like our version of the buckets and say, what are the things that we're most proud of this year? And what are we most excited to tell the judges about? Because then if we're excited about it and we're proud about it, we can talk about it passionately and get them excited about it. And we call them BAM points. It's like, so what are our 2 BAM points going to be? So we can just come into the judges and be like, yeah, and we did this, BAM, and we did that, BAM, and to bring that sort of energy. But one piece of advice I have is don't try and talk about everything. Really, it's just like with a robot. If you try and build a traverse bar hanger and a swerve drive and a high goal shooter and everything, maybe you can pull it off, but maybe if you did fewer things, you could just really be excellent at it. So that's.
I definitely agree. Quality over quantity. That's what I always remind myself.
Mhm.
And then we'll pass it to Tom for 503s.
Yeah, so you're going to hear this a lot tonight. Our overarching theme, and what we learned a lot from watching the chairman's chats at Champs, was tell your story. Sometimes we would go in and we'd start collecting our data and collecting our events, and we'd see a pattern or a theme emerge that we would then maybe use and structure an essay. But at a higher level, going into every season, we knew what message we wanted to get across. We wanted to, you mentioned it, Karthik, there's a lot of things that you need to talk about, but you can't dilute. You have to sometimes mention a lot of things in a lot of categories. But we wanted, at the end of the day, we wanted the judges to know who we are and what we do and why we're unique.
Right. Tips and best practices.
Oh, I'll talk about this. This is, I'll try to be brief because I think there's like 5 Hall of Fame teams here, and I think we can probably get a lot of advice, a lot of good stuff here. The top line planning, you can't, it's like a robot. You can't just start in January to compete at the level that we were trying to compete at. You've got to collect your data all year round, and you got to save it from year to year. And we learned this the hard way. That means storing it in a good place where you can have it. It's not on somebody's hard drive, and it's not on somebody's personal Google Drive. So when they leave the team, whether they're a student or a mentor, you can't have it. So you don't want to be writing your essay when there's 2 weeks to go and you can't remember who was at this event or how large the crowd was. And then certainly you don't want to be trying to look back and say, oh, was this bigger than last year, or what was how can we figure out like the percentage of growth? So it's all about, you have to plan ahead to collect that data and make it part of your, part of your process. The essay here, we considered the essay and the executive summary to go together. And if you look on the first website where it shows past winners or current regional winners, it shows their essay. The executive summary questions are it's all one document. It's treated as one document. And that is, I believe, from seeing what judges are taking notes on, that's what they see as well. So we treat the essay and the executive summary as one document. And what that means is every character and every second is precious. So we didn't want to waste time repeating anything. We don't want to say the same number or the same fact any 2 places. We might talk about one event and we might say in the executive summary, we started this many FLL teams. And then the essay, we would say, we started FLL teams and reached 200 kids. And then in the presentation, we might talk about the impact or a story about that or what it meant, right? So we could talk about the same subject, but repeating the same words, the same facts that's just what anybody knows, right? You're writing your essay. Our version would start out at 20,000 characters. And you got to get it down. Our presentation, we'd be lucky. Our first draft is 12 minutes. You got to trim. So don't waste precious characters.
Yeah. And Tom, it goes back to the analogy I was talking about. It's like building a robot. When you're building a robot, you've got limitations. You've got 120 pounds to work with. You've got X number of motors, X number of PDP slots. And when you're building an essay, when you're building a chairman's submission, you have 10,000 characters in the essay. You have 7 minutes of presentation time. You have executive summary. And you've really got to find things that fit together like a puzzle as opposed to having overlap. Because once you start having overlap, that's when you start having gaps.
Yeah, specifically I was just going to say specifically like a puzzle, especially in the early stages. Bacon's chairman's room was full of Post-it notes, all with different themes, events, things to hit on. And we just had to arrange them for like the first week or so into where we wanted them to go, where we wanted them to talk about them, what they each highlighted, how they interconnected. Like something visual like that was very helpful for us.
Yeah, it's a perfect analogy, right? It all goes together. They're not just separate and disparate facts. They relate to each other and they weave a story together.
And for our teams who are working virtually right now, one thing that if this existed back in 2012, we would have used it for sure. But I would set up like all your points like on like a Trello board online, and then you can just drag them around and move them into the different sections and stuff like that. And just that's the way to kind of do what James was saying about the Post-it notes, but in a virtual way that people can collaborate on.
Okay, so I'm sorry if you go ahead.
Oh, go ahead, Tom. You take it away.
Okay, so for the presentation, and this really goes for the essay too, but we really felt like the presentation was where we try to make ourselves stand out, where we try to tell that story. We would actually choose our chairman's presenters based more on their personal history and their stories and what they can talk about and contribute, on a personal level, more than we did even like their speaking ability. And then especially true, that's even more true of the Q&A, I think. Anybody with 6 weeks time and in a large team and help from English teachers, anybody can write a really good essay. And I don't mean to say that to downplay it, but you can write a really good essay, but to on the fly answer questions for 5 minutes that you don't know what all they're going to talk about it's key. And I think that really makes you stand out to the judges that you really did this, you really know your stuff. So we would meet for 2.5 hours, several days a week. And during that time, once it was written, we might run our presentation like 3 or 4 times. All the rest of that time was just drilling questions, because we thought that was our time to really, stand out. And like we said, to tell our story and to prove that we really did these things.
One of the things that, we've made an analogy about a lot here is that the chairman's is a lot like the robot. And just like, you don't expect to turn up at a competition with 0 time practicing and win the event. It's the same thing with chairman's, right? If you haven't practiced what it's going to be like in the room, just like if you haven't practiced what it's going to be like on the field, you're not going to do as well. So it's that same sort of analogy of just like you're going to drill your drive team, you want to drill your chairman's team.
And on the Q&A piece, there's because a lot of teams are always like, hey, there's a lot of resources out there where you can find old chairman's questions that judges have asked and stuff. And that stuff is great. But also, it's just getting comfortable answering questions in general. So you can practice asking just more mundane sort of questions, It's like just any sort of like standard interview questions, like tell us about yourself, just so people feel that comfort zone. So like once you have your chairman's presenters picked, just like pepper them with questions, make sure they're in the mode, it's just the same thing with, you just tell the drive teams, like sometimes the robot's not done yet, but we're just going to practice with a chassis and just get over the basic stuff. So just getting that familiarity there is massive.
Yeah. And I just wanted to mention really quickly, like the fact that, choosing students who personally know the team well and everything they've done is like really important, because if somebody's passionate about something, it'll show through how they present, and that just makes it a lot more authentic and just like, personal.
100%. Yeah.
Okay. Now the video, I don't want to say this too strongly and give the wrong impression. The video is not judged. Look, so it just needs to be presentable. That said, my absolute 2 favorite chairman's videos are represented on this call, 11:14 and 31:32. And I won't say who's number 1, but you know who you are. But they're just my favorite videos. One is, look at Sarah, and they're different, right? One is very high energy and one is very impactful and emotional, but they're both informative and they both really tell you about the team. And, that's really what you're going for. But it's not judged. It's not part of the presentation. It doesn't have any effect on who won the award that year. They just want to make sure that the sound is good. There's no inappropriate language or copyright or maybe student personal PII, personal identifiable information. They want to, they're just checking for things like that. So we didn't stress about it too much. We usually just found a group of students or a student that was really into it and kind of let them go. But make it something you're proud of.
Yeah. Sarah, I'd love to hear from you, because Tom brought up your chairman's video. Like, what was the thought process going into that?
So 3132 had a very different thought process from our beginning to 2016 for our video than we did in 2017. Up to 2016, we very much were, well, it's not officially judged, but the judges might look at it. So we still want to make sure we're getting as much information in there as we can. And so up till 2016, our video was 3 minutes on the dot. Like, you could open it in Adobe and it'd be 3 minutes and 0 seconds and 00. just absolutely nailing that 3 minutes. Like we nailed the 5 minutes on the presentation. Well, I guess now it would have been 7, but back in the day, man, I'm starting to feel old in this. It was 5 minutes. But in 2017, we decided we just wanted to create an ad for First. That's really what it is, right? This is going to be a tool that can be used for marketing purposes. And so we went and we started looking at different ads. And we've done that the past few years as well. But in that year, we picked a video that was from Nike. We've talked about it quite a bit online presentations. So if you go look at some of the other presentations I've done, you can find what video it was. But we really just fell in love with this ad, and we decided we were going to try and make a inspired version of our chairman's video from it. And the script wrote itself, like literally wrote itself. I think we wrote that script in about 30 minutes. We had our first draft, and I think we changed 2 words afterwards. The whole thing just kind of fell together in a way that was really magical. So I'd say the thing I think we learned the most about it is don't try and force a video, because when it's the right video for your team, you're just going to know, and it's going to come together so fast and so beautifully that it felt like magic. I've never been a part of anything before that was like that, or since, where it just fell together so easily.
Funny, Sarah, that you mentioned that your video was inspired by a Nike commercial, because we went through the same sort of process. Ours, we went through a bunch of Nike and Jordan commercials. We actually settled on an NBA commercial. That's where we pulled the whole concept from. Our strategy with the video was, we knew it wasn't judged, but we're big believers in that old saying that, people might not remember what you told them, but they'll remember how you made them feel. And so we're like, well, the judges are still going to look at it, and you can't turn off what you feel. So we wanted to make them feel something from the video, because we think I mean, writing an emotionally charged essay is difficult. It takes the best writers to be able to do something like that. And in a presentation, you can do more, but with the video where you can add in music and stuff is when you can really hit someone. So we wanted to tell the story behind Symbotics, because there was, people would look at 1114 and be like, oh, robot, stats. And that's kind of what our submission was. So we wanted to present another side of it. So that's the approach we had. But it's neat. The most fun part of that presentation, of working on that video, was the amount of time we spent looking through old commercials and movie trailers and stuff were a big inspiration. So that was fun.
Same. And, I think we also wanted to have that emotion, but for us, it was more we wanted people to take action afterwards. So it was less the heartstrings and more the like, yes, I want to go do something, like, yeah, sign me up. So same goal of emotion, just a different emotion. That was the target at the end.
Right. What's next, folks?
That's this documentation, and I think this is kind of covered in planning, just document everything. But I think of it like scouting, in that you never know what data until the first couple weeks of the season. You never know what data you're going to use, so collect it all. We would have a spreadsheet, and at every event, how long it was, who was there, how many people attended, what students went. So we could always categorize by different categories. So we could always go back and look and say, 600 hours of mentoring and 30% increase over 2 years. You don't know how you're going to want to slice the data. You're going to slice it the way that makes you look the best. Let's be honest. So you got to have the data to do that. So collect everything and save it. Don't throw it out.
All right. For questions, definitions, and the impact on your submission.
True. It's so easy to fall into a situation where you're looking at your executive summaries at the short answers and thinking, okay, we have to cover everything like that in the essay, and you really don't. The essay just allows you to expand on the subject areas and the topics that you really want to emphasize. Don't try to put all of your executive summaries into your essay, and vice versa. It's not a good read, I guess, is the best way to put it. But you really want to take those things that are so deeply meaningful to your team and use that real estate to your best advantage, and really go in depth into things that are really meaningful. And I think it was said earlier, quality, give us what your team is really, really into and what you're really going to focus on, whether or not you win this award. This is what you do as a team and who you are as a team.
I think I will say a helpful way to think about how specifically the questions and the essay sort of differ and interact with each other is the essay is one very long and narrative answer to one question, which is what makes you an example first team. Like that's the question you're answering in 10,000 characters in a narrative, which is one of the most impactful ways you can get information across as a and the questions are just very specific answers to very specific questions. They can have their own little narratives in it, and they can relate back to the broader narrative you've built in your essay and the rest of your presentation. But they are very hyper-specific and are very sort of targeted in a way to just emphasize and highlight.
I think we can jump to the next slide.
All right, so we get to the part where your essay is written, your text box, or not, we call them text boxes, but executive summaries are all submitted. It's now your presentation time. So very timely, there's a blog this afternoon about remote judging. I know in Ontario, all judging is going to be remote, but there's a new link that you can see if your event is going to go remote. So be sure to bookmark that. Because you're kind of preparing two different things. Obviously, like we've talked about, content and Q&A is so important, but how you prepare for those is going to look different virtual or in person. One thing, having watched so many Teams meetings on chairman's presentations, is think about the logistics of your presentation. How are you all going to show up to the meeting? Are you all each individually? Are you all in one room? Most important thing is I want to be able to see all of you and I want to be able to hear you. So do some tech checks, make sure everyone can be seen and heard. And then also your visuals, that's another logistics point. If you're on a Teams meeting and you're sharing your screen, make sure your content is enhancing, not detracting. Similarly, if you want something running in the background, a slideshow, or you have a poster, I might not be able to see it because it appears this tiny on the screen. But if you're in person, maybe I can see that better. But again, don't use 12-point font. I'm not going to be able to read it. And then we'll go to the next slide.
So I think this could be... Okay. Just a general overview before we sort of recap here. I think that the thing that's most important is we get asked a lot, well, maybe our team hasn't done as much as yours. How can we ever compete for this award? And at the end of the day, this goes back to a few slides before. This is a chance for your team to also reflect and over your past year and where you've come from and where you're going to be going. So I really think that, just think of it in that context. And it goes back to what Tom says, tell your team story. That's what the judges want to hear. They want to hear about how FIRST is changing your team and your community and the impact that it's having. So go do that. One of the things that 3132 had in our 2017 submission, it was one of the themes in there, was make your journey count. And that's what you should go and tell the judges, is how your team is making your FIRST journey, be it as an individual or as a team, be it just how it's changing your team members or how it's changed your school. That's the story that they want to hear. And that can be just as impactful as going and starting FIRST in a new country. Next slide.
I'll just, again, plug the resources of the Hall of Fame. So we have a Hall of Fame website. When we were talking earlier about the executive summaries, we are on social media now, that new this year, and just went through all 13 questions with some thoughts on that. So go check it out. And then again, reach out to any Hall of Fame team. They would be more than happy to help, even if there's not one in your area.
Rachel, what's that website for folks who want to check it out?
If you go to the next slide, we'll have all of our links right there. So firsthalloffame.org. And so Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and we have YouTube, which is compilation of videos from Hall of Fame teams.
Well, thank you so much, Hall of Fame teams. This is really, really great information. We would love to chat for hours and hours because there's just so much that provided. We could probably take the slides down now. But I guess before we go, any like final piece of advice for teams as they're working through this? Because I know a lot of teams, this is the part of the year where it's like, how do we get over the hump to finish this?
Yeah, and Rachel mentioned it, but I kind of skipped over it. Really important, the executive summary questions changed last year. And those are your guide we always treated it as the rubric. We always treated that as the checkbox, right? That's the stuff that the judges want to know about. So pay attention to those questions, go and look and see how they've changed. They've really narrowed down the focus of the time. And also they've really focused in on different areas that are important to first. So don't just treat them like they're just small questions, 500 characters compared to 10,000, it's nothing. They're really important. They're really a part of what you're doing.
And I think also
for the website on that one, we did a whole roadshow last year, including a stop here on First Canada Live, but we did a few other events as well, including the 24 Hours of STEM, which is where our backgrounds have come from. So go check that out. Those are all up on the First Hall of Fame website, and we talk a lot more about each question in depth. So if you want to know our thoughts on that, you can go find them there.
And have fun, please. Teams, have fun. Some of the best discussions, heated discussions took place when we were really trying to piece our chairman's submissions through each year. And throughout it all, we had a lot of fun and we ate a lot of Twizzlers. No joke. We ate a lot of Twizzlers. So have fun.
We ate a lot of Tim Tams.
And the burning question that's been running for, I don't know, an hour and a half now. Yes, that was me in the video. I've got weird lighting going on. I'll get washed out, but I can reenact it for you.
There we go, Tom. I feel you, brother. I feel you. I was like, yeah, that has to be Tom there. So that was really cool. All right. Thank you so much to the First Hall of Fame. We appreciate you coming on the show, year after year. We'll invite you back again next year because it's really great that you're supporting all the teams out there, especially our teams up here in Ontario. We really appreciate it. Hey, lots of good stuff going on in the First community. Next week, we are going to be back with Georgian College and the University of Waterloo. Also, Vanshika, you're going to be back with the Youth Council talking about mental health. Mm-hmm. So that's going to be really important. Folks, remember, please stay safe and get whichever vaccine dose you're eligible for now. Booster, if you're younger, to get your second dose. It is so important. If you want these events to happen this year, the more people we get boosted, the more people we get to have their second shots, the better chance we have of pulling all this off. So stay safe, everyone. Have a good time. Vanshika, how'd you like being a co-host?
Honestly, amazing.
Well, we will have to have you back to do this again. This was great. This was super awesome. Everyone, take care, stay safe, and we will see you soon.